Well, hello and welcome back. I'm Joe Hyde, the publisher of San Angelo Live. If you've ever read San Angelo Live on almost a daily basis, you'll probably see a story on there about two things. One is drugs. We have a big drug problem in San Angelo, Texas, and the second one is probably even more concerning, particularly with the feedback we get on these kinds of stories, and that's usually an adult taking advantage of a minor sexually. So the child predator type stories. And if you can log on to the DPS website and you can see a map with a pin where all the child sex offenders are located, or just sex offenders located. That brings a question. What are we doing as a society here in San Angelo to help abate those kinds of crimes? And joining me today is a very special guest, Bonnie Wallace from Llano, Texas.
Howdy.
Bonnie, thank you for coming on. Now, Bonnie, just tell the audience who you are, and I'll kind of spoil a little bit. She's part of a big lawsuit in Llano. We reported it on last summer concerning library books at the Llano Public Library. It's part of the county. The county commissioner's court, of course, manages the libraries in Llano County, as they do here in Tom Green County, for having, how shall we say, dirty books in the library?
Well, that's correct.
But anyway, before you get into that, tell me who you are and how you got into this.
Okay. I'm Bonnie Wallace, and I am part of the Llano County Library lawsuit. So, interesting, you might not know this, Llano County is the first library in America sued for relocating 17 harmful, I consider them pornographic books, out of the children's section into the adult section. So we didn't go out and burn them, right? We didn't ban them. We just took them out of the children's section. Some of the books, I have one in my lap, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is what a child would see, just, the spine.
Let's talk about
it,
Okay.
right? So this is 12-year-old book of the year.
And this is in the Llano Public Library.
Correct.
And this is now the Llano Public Library has two libraries, right? Or three?
It has three. Mm-hmm.
So you have one in Kingsland?
One in Kingsland, one in Buchanan Dam, and one in the city of Llano.
Okay.
Kingsland and Buchanan Dam are not incorporated. So they are just unincorporated areas of the county.
So you were on the library board.
Not originally.
Okay.
So when I first started finding out about, I heard rumors, you hear about something. And
you're saying it can't be true.
That's exactly what I said.
Right.
And so I give people a lot of grace because that's what they still think. And I was getting my hair cut in November of 2021, and my hairstylist said, "Have you seen any of the books?" And I said, "No, but I've heard about them."
All right, let's stop right there.
So she showed me my first picture.
Show me this. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's in it. So the readers and the guys listening out there can understand what kind of books we have
right.
in the Llano Public Library, which means they could be in the Tom Green County Library. We don't know yet.
Yes, I haven't checked your county library, so I don't know what's in it, but I'll be happy to do an audit for you and for your listeners because it's very important.
Hold it up so people can see it.
So there we go. This is what the exterior looks like. There's no nudity, nothing, I would say, inappropriate. And as a 12-year-old girl, I've never been a 12-year-old boy, but as a 12-year-old girl, if I saw this spine, let's talk about it, I might say, well, girls like talking. What are we going to talk about? Mm-hmm. And open it. So some of my favorite pages I mark because I show people, and it's got too much bad stuff.
Yeah.
Can I turn this around?
Yeah, you turn around.
Okay. So this page, actually the other page, this page talks about trying sex toys. They're encouraging kids to try sex toys. Remember, this is the 12-year-old book of the year in 2022. And so the other side, talks about butt plugs and different things that children or others can use. This is another one of the pages that I always mark. This one, it's very nefarious because it talks about how the internet is a great place to research kinks and fantasies. So imagine you're 12 years old. You've probably never heard the words kinks and fantasies, I hope. I have to tell you a story. I went to Israel and I bought a new pair of tennis shoes before I went. And I bought them online because I live in Llano. And I have gotten at least 10,000 ads for tennis shoes since
Right.
I searched for tennis shoes. So this book tells you the internet is a great place to research kinks and fantasies. If you go online and you research kinks and fantasies, what kind of feedback are you going to get? Lots and lots of bad stuff, I can imagine. Now,
So
down
basically what
here-
you're saying is you do that and you could probably get remarketed for kinks and fantasy type products.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
How did they know I needed a pair of tennis shoes? And all the tennis shoe companies didn't send me out tennis shoe ads.
So read some of that and
Okay.
some of the text and this is a book that's aimed at children. What's the age group that's aimed at?
12 years old.
Okay.
Okay. And it
So-
won the Great Graphic Novel of the Year for 2022 for 12-year-olds. That's an award that the American Library Association gives out. And it's an
So
acclaimed.
if you're a mom or a dad out there,
Yes.
when she reads this, I want you to imagine yourself reading this to your 12-year-old daughter.
Right. So it says a great place to research fantasies and kinks safely is on the internet. A little bit down further, look up interviews with your favorite porn performers. Go to the sites they recommend and pay for your porn. Okay, so
It's telling 12-year-old girls to pay for porn?
well, boys. I mean, it's just for all 12-year-olds.
12-year-olds,
Yeah,
okay.
and so, but why would any 12-year-old have a favorite porn performer? That's the first question. The second question is, what type of sites would a porn performer recommend to children or to anyone? I would imagine not helpful, certainly harmful. And how would a 12-year-old pay for porn in the first place? The opposite side is about pornography on the internet, and it goes on and on about watching porn uncritically can leave you with unrealistic expectations in the bedroom and blah blah blah. But remember, their target is 12-year-olds. So it says, but there is nothing wrong with enjoying some porn. It's a fun, sugary treat. Well, fun, sugary treats, those are things that most kids like, right?
Right,
It's
like
not
bubble
really.
gum.
Yes. How many adults can you entice in by saying fun, sugary treat? You know, one of the most interesting things about this book, and it was the first book I found with something like this, it has a disclaimer on it. So it says,
And this is in the small print
on the publisher's
front.
page.
Okay, on the
Right.
publisher's page.
right, publishers, editors, stuff like that. This is what it says. The authors and publisher expressly disclaim responsibility from any adverse effects that may result from the use or application of the information contained in this book. And right underneath that, Random House children's books.
Okay.
So, you know, we've all bought books from Random House.
All right, so you're in Llano.
I am.
And you have time to go to the county library. I don't know how many people watching this have ever been to the county library here in Tom Green County. But how did you find out about that book being in your library?
So when my hairstylist showed me the one picture she had on her phone, I said, send it to me, email it to me, text it to me. And she said, no, it's pornography. So I took a picture of her picture on her
the
phone.
okay.
And then I went home. And by the way, I have to say my hair has been on fire since that day. And I had heard about it for months in anticipation of this day, you know, leading up to. But once I realized the gravity of what's in the library impacting our children, and not just in the library, but remember, we pay for that. It's being paid for with my tax dollars, your tax dollars. And so, and it's, I have to say, it's not, I know you want to say something, it's not only public libraries. Schools have equal or worse content than the public libraries.
Okay, so Llano County probably voted 80% in favor of Trump. It's a fairly conservative county, I would say.
Correct.
Austin hadn't creeped into there yet.
It's trying.
And your commissioner's court is probably all 100% Republicans.
It is.
So, and they're overseeing the library. How did they allow these books to get in?
So I went home that day and I emailed the county judge who I go to church with, and every pastor I know, every teacher I know, every parent I know, and every business owner. And I emailed a letter, over 100 people, and I sent that picture, attached it, and I said, we have pornography in the Llano County Library. So the picture that she showed me that day was from a book called Gender Queer, and the picture she showed me is of a blowjob. And so it's from 3 different angles, from top looking down, from, you know, the center looking inward, and
So
then
it's kind of an instructional guide.
yeah, I would say
Okay.
that sums it up.
Yeah.
And so it blew my mind, and I thought that was the worst thing I would ever see. I've seen worse, but it opened my eyes.
So what was the response from these 100 people that you emailed? Obviously, there were movers and shakers in Llano County. So
Yes, but you know, what I've learned fighting this battle for now over 2 years, almost 2.5 years, is that most people are afraid of the topic. They don't want to infringe on someone else's right to read, right? Because
they don't want to be a book burner.
They-
I mean, you're a book burner.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
a book banner. I'm a book burner, and
Right.
I'm
You're against the
censorship.
You're against the First Amendment.
Yes. And so what I started doing is carrying this book that I have with me.
Oh, excuse me.
That's why I have it. Sorry, guys. So
Hit the microphone.
I carry it with me because when people say, "Oh, you're Bonnie Wallace and you believe in censorship," I say, "Oh no, I don't believe in censorship because I do not believe in censorship. I believe that people should be able to read what they want, not children." Because children need protection. Just like you can't drive a car until you're 16 and you can't buy booze until you're 21. You've got
Can't vote
tobacco.
until you're 18.
Yeah. When our brain is sufficiently mature to handle certain topics, then that can be opened up to us. But why would our tax dollars buy this and then stick it right in front of children? Because as I said, the cover looks pretty benign, and then you open it and there's every single page has vast nudity in it. I have pictures
And description, very graphic descriptions.
Yes, sir.
And so before the show, you showed me a lot of other books that are in the Llano County Library, and
Right.
very graphic sex scenes, smoking crack,
Oh, yes.
and dare I say, the devil's lettuce, the joints and things
Yes.
like that. So it's desensitizing people through a narrative to drugs and sex, and you can almost say that this is at 12 years old, and they're teaching them how to do sex acts. That's sexualizing children, getting them,
No doubt.
making them primed to be victimized by adults.
When an adult comes to them and touches them inappropriately, you can lead that back to so many books that are in our libraries, yours included, that have the same scenes depicted in graphic novels. I have books that are they're called early readers. They're for children who cannot read, that you read to your children, so like age 1. I have pictures of 2 grown men taking a shower with a 2-year-old child, all naked, frontal nudity, side nudity, with a 3 or 4-year-old little girl in the corner watching.
Okay, so you're on the library board, and what you try to do is say, let's keep the books in the library, but let's put them over here in a separate section. Isn't that what you did?
Adult.
You had an adult section. You
Right.
said we want to move these over to the adult section.
Correct.
So a parent, if they wanted to check it out for their child,
Yes.
their First Amendment rights and all that weren't abridged. They still had their accessible.
Correct.
You just didn't want the child to be perusing, thinking it's okay to check this out.
Right, because my hypothesis is if a child pulls this book that I showed you, and there's hundreds, there's not just one, if you pull it off the shelf and you start opening it to look and see what's in it, it's very damaging, very harmful.
Right. All right, one more thing. Back to this fact that this is a very conservative county, a very Republican commissioner's court that probably would not be in favor of that book
They are not.
being checked out to children. How the heck, their oversight includes that library, or the 3 libraries in Llano County. How did those commissioners
Right.
and that county judge allow this to happen?
Well, just like in school libraries, public libraries operate with the authority of the librarian or the director of libraries if you have more than one. So the American Library Association sends out a list of books that they recommend that each library purchase. Now, you might not know, 92% of libraries belong to the American Library Association.
So this is an institution that probably has decades and decades and decades of experience,
Yes.
or they had the relationships with all the libraries, probably all the Carnegie libraries. Remember back in the old days?
That's
when
right, that
Carnegie
was the
built
first
libraries. And they supply them with books.
Well, you pay for the books, so
Right.
it's not like free. But what I have noticed is, because I asked our librarian, how did this stuff get in there? And so she said, I just pushed the button, buy the books that they
So
recommend.
she's online, and then the American Library Association says, here, these are the books you need to be a good library.
No library is complete without these books.
Ah.
And so they're the new ones, award-winning ones that they send out. They send 2 lists. One's monthly and one is quarterly. And so if you don't have this book, your library is incomplete. Well, that's
Do they inspect libraries and say, do you have these books?
No, no.
So.
But it's an enticement.
Right.
Okay, so they award, the American Library Association awards, in my opinion again, very vile. The filthier, the better. So the more vile a book is, the better the award is.
So this organization probably needs to be cleaned up.
Oh, amen. The new president is named Emily Drabinsky, and you can look her up. Your viewers can look her up online, and it's quite eye-opening. She claims outright on her own page to be Marxist, socialist, and so that wants to wield the collective bargaining power of the library to help children, to separate children from their parents, and give them their own authority and independence and all these things, which is not what a 12-year-old needs.
You can't talk about the lawsuit because it's at the Fifth Circuit of Appeals right now. There's a question there. But just to tell me if I'm saying this wrong, you were sued when you segregated these books into the adult section by an activist group came in, found some local Llano County residents who would sign on to it. They sued you, and then you got a court order in federal district court to force you to place the books back into the general population or into the children's book section. And then you're appealing that at the Fifth Circuit,
Yes.
And you just had oral arguments in front of the Fifth Circuit about this case.
It's only not about the whole case, just about the emergency injunction, because
Right.
the 7 people...
That's the injunction was
Right.
to put the books back on the shelf.
Correct. And so we had removed them and put them into the adult section. So they were not available to children. The lawsuit asked for us to immediately put them back because, of course, it's an emergency if we don't have porn in our children's section. And so the federal district judge in Austin, Robert Pittman, he ruled against us and required us to return the books to their location. And so their original location. And
so that's where they are right now.
Correct. That's exactly right.
And just to sidebar this a little bit, are they still ordering books?
No.
Is it still increasing the number? What happened? They just stopped ordering books during the lawsuit?
So, yes, before the lawsuit. In October of 2021, this started like in June or July. I did not get involved until November when I saw my first picture. But I was going to the commissioner's courts, and I think it was in the end of November. It could have been the beginning of December. They made a ruling that no more book purchases until we got a grasp on how the content was coming in. Because
so you had no controls, no system to determine
Correct.
if this is
Correct.
And that actually is a slippery slope because next thing you know, from the right they don't like this particular book. Then from the left they might say, well, Huckleberry Finn is racist.
Exactly.
Right?
And they have. But the problem with a library, any library in America, is that everybody practices censorship. Okay, so at every point, if censorship is moving a book or removing a book, which is what they're claiming, the left, there's no library in America, maybe the New York City Metropolitan Library, but I'm not sure, that can buy every single book that is printed
Right.
every single year.
So someone has to make a decision what books to include.
Because of the limited shelf space and budget. Okay, and so it's common that people do this, but we were actually sued for this exact topic. We could have taken the books out because you have the ability and obviously the authority to take a book out that is deemed harmful or Texas law says sexually explicit or pervasively vulgar.
Is that the HB 900 thing?
Correct.
Okay, and that was just passed into law in the 88th legislature.
That's
just
exactly
happened.
right,
So
yes.
it was just signed into law where you can object to these kinds of books.
Correct. But even in my own high school library that I'm going after now because
All right, so wait.
I know.
You're in the middle of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit probably in Llano County, and now you're going to go stir up the hornet's nest at the Llano ISD?
Yes, that's exactly right. I wasn't planning to, and I've been looking for someone. Someone, just one person, please, to have courage to come and help. But I haven't found it, and here we are, almost 2 years. We were sued, me personally, and 3 members of the board, the Library Advisory Board.
This is the county lawsuit.
The county, the county judge, all 4 commissioners, library director, those are county employees, and then 4 members of the Library Advisory Board.
And how much money they want? How much money are they suing for?
Actually, they're not suing for anything. And I think they deliberately did this. It was their strategy because the Texas Association of Counties, which provides our insurance, will not cover us. They will not cover these legal expenses because they did not ask for money.
So they sued, not asking for money. And what's going to happen now is it's going to cost you guys more money, cost the county more money.
Sure.
So basically, this is to make it painful. If you do not allow this pornographic content into your public libraries, we're going to make it so painful for you that you can't afford to say no.
Well, it's very interesting because I have gone to 129 communities and taught people what to look for. I give them a list, how to find it, what to do when they find it. And every one of them without fail says, we are waiting for the results of the Llano County Library. We don't want to move something. We don't want to wait.
So it's a landmark case.
It's a landmark case.
Yeah.
And so once the Fifth Circuit rules, our oral arguments were held on June 7th, 2023. So we're 7 months in.
So you're waiting. They're still stewing over it there in New Orleans.
Yes. Any day now, I think. Eventually it's going to come down.
All right. So
then it goes to trial because our lawsuit hasn't even gone to trial.
I see.
The other thing about the
because this is just over the injunction.
That's just over the injunction.
And so then
we're up to $200,000.
$200,000.
Right, correct.
And so they'll come down with this ruling, and then you have to start the trial in the district court, the federal district court in Austin.
When the federal district judge in Austin on March 30th ruled that we had to put everything back immediately, our attorney is Jonathan Mitchell. So Jonathan Mitchell, coincidentally, is the man who will be arguing Trump's Colorado ballot case before the Supreme Court next week. He's very good and very conservative. And then he immediately appealed to the Fifth Circuit for expedited hearing and for them to take our case because, of course, they can't take every case. But they did take ours, and they gave us expedited hearing. So it was argued, our case was argued before the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans. It's a beautiful building, and it's just amazing to be there, on June 7th. And when they accepted our case with expedited hearing, the Fifth Circuit, they put a stay on the entire case. Nothing could move forward. And so we've just kind of been in limbo, waiting till then. But eventually, we'll get a ruling. We think we will be victorious.
Okay, so you've had time while the case is on a stay,
right,
to go around Texas.
Correct.
And so what have you found? Like, I know you've looked at the San Angelo Independent School District's libraries.
I have.
Give me kind of just an overview of what you found in our own San Angelo ISD schools, like Central, Glenn Middle School, Lakeview High School, Lincoln. What have you found?
Well,
I didn't say one more. Lone Star.
Lone Star,
yeah.
Yes. Okay, so like every other library that I have personally visited, either online or in person, you have lots of bad books. You have lots of pornography. Another thing that people never talk about is the amount of pervasive drug usage and glamorization and trivialization of drug usage. Most of the books are for teenagers, 12 years old. The American Library calls it young adult.
Mm-hmm.
So
it starts at 12?
It starts at 12, which is a misnomer because a young adult, okay, you could push it and say 17, but technically to be an adult you have to be 18. Maybe 16, but 12's not even a teenager yet. So definitely not a young adult. But that's what they're called. And so these books, you have several really bad books about drug usage in the library. And
what about sex?
Oh yeah, well, lots of sex.
Lots of sex in our
Yes.
school's library.
You have books, incest. You have a book called named Identical. Ellen Hopkins wrote it, and it is about a father who begins molesting his children when identical twin girls at age 9, and up until I think the book is written from the protagonist's view at 17, I believe. And so over and over, and very descriptive. I brought the reports. So.
And this is in San Angelo Independent School District.
Yes.
I mean, in this place went, I don't know, 64% Trump.
Right.
And our school, if I'm on the school board and someone is telling me this, and I know that people have mentioned this to members of the school board, and they're not doing anything, why the heck why are they even there? Why do we elect them to be the board? We need some leadership
Amen.
to be able to get to the bottom of it. But I have a list of 17 books.
Right.
That we're going to put out on a story.
Okay, good.
And we'll put some excerpts in it so parents in the San Angelo ISD
Yes.
can read about how your school district is grooming your kids for sex, drug use, things you don't want them to do, probably. I mean, most parents don't. So.
Well, and coincidentally, I think in their defense, it took me a while to recognize the gravity of what is actually contained in these books, because I also never understood how devious and nefarious the content is. And when people were telling me, I was like, oh, how bad can it be? Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that first picture, which actually, going back now, it was very benign. Even the 17 books that are involved in the Llano County Library lawsuit dispute are I would say, very benign compared to what I found subsequently as I began searching and auditing and informing myself. But I think that what happens with the school boards, Llano School Board, probably yours, they're all the same, is that they think that their high school principals, the librarians, they have credit in them, they have faith in them, and they don't understand exactly what's in the books. So what I do in Llano,
Is it the same kind of thing? You had this library association that says, here are the recommended books. Do you have a good library?
Yes.
Press the buy button, buy now button.
Absolutely, yes.
So people are basically putting this stuff into schools without even thinking about what they're putting in the school libraries.
That's exactly true when it arrives. But some of these books have been in. I'm talking about Llano Library now. Yours is probably similar or the same, but some of these books have been in the Llano Library for 10 or 15 years. So you would think that after 10 or 15 years, at least some of the students would go, wow, Miss Dillard, that's the librarian at the Llano High School. This has really bad stuff in it. So I don't know if that's ever happened, but
maybe it's not on TikTok, or maybe it is on TikTok.
I don't have TikTok.
That's how the kids communicate these days. So we don't know. But anyway, Bonnie Wallace, she's from Llano, Texas. She's an activist to clean up our libraries in the county and the school districts. Just a mom trying to help out the world.
My role is not to clean the libraries.
Okay.
My role is to protect the children. And if protecting the children means cleaning the library, that's the step.
I got you.
Sometimes there's other steps, but my objective is to protect the children. Now, in my ISD, and one of the school board members said, well, we have a process. Yes, we do have a process. It hasn't worked yet. We've had
we have a process here. I asked our school district, they have a public affairs person. It's kind of like, they hire people to lie to you. Anyway, yeah. But she immediately sent me to this web page that's buried somewhere on the San Angelo ISD website. And here's how you dispute the books. And I've talked to people who want to dispute the books, and they say, well, the process is not fair. That's really what I'm getting. The process is not fair. It's stacked against the whistleblower.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, where the whistleblower should be protected, right? If you're a voter in San Angelo ISD, wouldn't you want to protect your whistleblowers? But what I was told is that if they became grievance filers, they're in some kind of separate category which prevents them from speaking out or something. I don't know, but these school districts have gotten too powerful, have too much money, and the administrative level needs to understand what is in their libraries. And if I were the superintendent of the San Angelo ISD, I'd get a handle of it, because we're going to start exposing it, and we're going to find out, does the superintendent want to groom our children so that San Angelo Live can write more crime stories about predators of children. That's basically what the deal is. And the last thing I'll say, I get a little bit upset about this. Do you think that the crime waves we have in drugs and in child sex crimes, do you think that's related to these books?
Well, I would say there's no way it couldn't be related. I don't have firsthand evidence or knowledge of that, but if you extrapolate the books out into what they are teaching our kids, and there's no way, because I'm 56 years old, and the amount of filth that I've read to try to protect children, it's insane. The other thing that's very interesting is there's various authors they're repeat, I would call them repeat offenders. So Sarah J. Maas, Colleen Hoover, Ellen Hopkins, to name a few. And they start out with a book series. And book one is maybe like 2 out of 5 bad. But book two, maybe the same, or 3 out of 5, and then 4 out of 5. And then they're so vile, I couldn't even read it on air. And they're still in our high school libraries. Even if the
That's
high
in Llano.
school, oh yeah, and it's probably here too. I'm 100%
Say
sure.
the book name one more time so people can
Well,
ask.
it's the author. Her name's Sarah J. Maas.
Sarah Jane Moss. If you're a parent, San Angelo ISD, Cristobal, Wall, go ask if that's in your list. Any books by Sarah Jane Moss, and check them out and read them.
Yeah, and she has a brand new book that came out, I think, last week, and I haven't gotten it yet, but I will read it. But the kids then, maybe they start with the first book. So even if the high school or the public library were to relocate one book, the most severe, book 3 or 4, that's so vile that it's impossible to believe, the kids read the milder book in the beginning. And so if they went and looked for it and you didn't have it at the high school because you had removed it for whatever reason, they might go to the public library. They might then buy it, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, whatever, because they like the author. So we should not be putting in authors that have this track record of complete and vile pornography.
Or at least put them in the adult section.
Well, and a library doesn't have an adult section for the
school,
school, right?
School library doesn't.
And so the other thing, in the Llano Library, there are hundreds of adult books, which really blows my mind. Why do we have adult books in the Llano Library, high school library? Because presumably some kids might turn 18 while they're seniors, right?
Oh my God.
But they're all, for sure, freshmen, sophomore, and juniors are underage. They're minors. So we should not have adult
bottom line is
erotica.
Bottom line, in our political environment, the biggest debate here in the state of Texas is whether or not to have school vouchers or not. And the reason why people want school vouchers is because public schools, parents feel, no longer share their values. And what a better way to say we are a public school that no longer shares your values, don't support us, than to put pornographic books in there that groom your children to become victims of sex crimes. That's really what's happening right there.
Amen. Run for school board.
I'm not going to run for school board. I'd rather be on here. But Bonnie Wallace from Llano, Texas, keep an eye on this lady. She's doing a yeoman's work out there. She's going up against the far leftists that are suing her. Big target on her, but she keeps on fighting.
Well, I will say, I hope that the school board in San Angelo has more courage and more conviction to go out and actually see what's in the libraries, because I think what happens is sometimes the principals and the librarians tell the school board, there's a process, we're working through it, it's not that bad.
Yeah. And we hear the process is loaded against.
Well, it is. Let me tell you, I have in Llano ISD for the high school, I haven't even started the other schools, but in the high school I have found 198 books that need to go. 198, and they've told me it takes 30 days per book.
But you just want to move them to the adult section, right?
There's no adult section in the Llano High School.
So you want an adult section?
I do not want an adult section. I want a porn, adult erotica out. But here's the deal. They've told me they can remove or reconsider 9 books a year.
Okay, so you got to go through
22 and a half years.
You can get them out.
Not necessarily get them out, but they will
At least review
them.
Yeah.
Isn't that absurd?
By that time, everyone's going to be dead. But anyway.
I told them children who have not even been conceived will have graduated from high school before you get through my list.
Bonnie Wallace from Llano, Texas, book expert.
Yes.
How's that?
I like it.
And back to this, Joe Hyde, and back to the studio.
Thank you.